Hello and welcome everyone to our 11th episode of ABAP on HANA come S4HANA course on YouTube with me Amrit. So in the previous session we saw functional DB and S4HANA, we saw the structure of HANA box, we saw schema packages. Now let's see how the migration actually works here. So migration, how migration is going to work. What is the meaning of migration and all those things. So migration. If we talk about migration, we have basically two ways to migrate. One is migration. So let's say I have my existing ECC system. Let me just show you. So let's say I have my existing ECC system, which is connected to any kind of database. Now what I am doing, I am simply migrating to HANA. I am simply changing my database. I am simply changing my database with the same ECC system. Just I am updating my database with HANA. So this kind of thing is known as migration. But if you are simply updating or if you are simply updating your existing ECC system with S4HANA, then it is known as conversion. So we have various kinds of projects here. First one is greenfield implementation. So greenfield implementation, greenfield implementation. There is no past ERP. There is no past ERP. The company is implementing directly S4HANA for the first time. This kind of projects are known as greenfield implementation. Greenfield implementation. Then we have brownfield implementation. Second one, brownfield implementation. Brownfield implementation. So company is already using SAP ECC system, right? Your ERP system, ECC ERP, but now it is upgrading itself to S4HANA. This is known as brownfield implementation. You can have any of these projects in your company, you just need to know it. So this is known as brownfield implementation. Brownfield implementation. So here the word is migration and conversion. So what is migration? First we need to know what is migration. Migration or conversion. Two things are here, migration. So in migration, we are simply replacing our traditional database with HANA database. We are simply replacing our traditional database with HANA database. Okay. It can be your traditional, it can be Oracle, it can be Sybase, it can be MS SQL or MySQL also. And if we talk about conversion, upgrading our existing SAP ECC system with SAP S/4HANA system. This is the clear difference between migration and conversion. So if you are simply migrating to any current DB, migrating to migrating to HANA database, if you are simply replacing your current traditional database with HANA database, it will be a migration. But if you are replacing your current ECC system with S/4HANA system, this is known as conversion. This is known as conversion. Okay, so brownfield and greenfield implementation and migration and conversion. Then if we talk about what is going to happen when we'll move to any other database. So moving from any database to HANA, what is going to happen? If I am directly moving, what will work and what will not work? We need to know that, right? So as a ABAP developer, we are asked to find what it means to go from any database to HANA. As a ABAP developer, we are asked to find out what it means to go from any database to HANA. So migration to HANA is just like any other migration. It's just like any other migration. It's just like any other migration which we see. For example, let's say I am migrating from MySQL to Oracle DB, right? Oracle DB. So migrating from any other database to HANA is similar to a normal migration, but certain things is not going to work, right? If we are migrating from one database to another, there are definitely certain things will be there that is not going to work. So what is not going to work in HANA? What is not going to work in HANA? First thing, any native SQL statements are not going to work. Access to pool table and cluster table, access to pool and cluster table, as HANA only allow transparent table, there is no need of pool and cluster table in case of S/4HANA. Transparent table. Okay, for third thing, if we do any delete adjacent duplicate, binary search, and data is not sorted, the code will produce different results, right? So it's not allowed here. Now the question comes here, how am I going to check if there is some problem with my existing code? How am I going to check if there is some problem? So these three things are not going to work. Native SQL are only for current database. Native SQL is not going to work. So what actually happens when we write any OpenSQL on application layer, that OpenSQL is actually getting converted to native SQL when it is sent to the database layer. This is what actually happens. So native SQL, if you are directly writing native SQL, it is not going to work. Pool and cluster table are not supported in case of HANA. Only transparent table is allowed. Then if we do any delete adjacent duplicate or binary search and data is not in sorted form, the code will produce different results. It's not going to allow it. So how we are going to check that our code is correct or not? So we have some code inspector. Let's see that. SCI, SAP Code Inspector, and we have ATC, ABAP Test Cockpit, ABAP Test Cockpit, SAP Code Inspector and ABAP Test Cockpit. These two tools are used for testing and inspecting ABAP codes. Testing and inspecting ABAP code. Okay, let's discuss them one by one. SAP Code Inspector, I will write it SCI. So we are going to run a check using this, run a check using these tools, using this tool on the system with a variant provided by SAP NetWeaver 7.4. We have a variant given by SAP NetWeaver. We are directly going to use for the check. Okay, the name of the variant is variant provided used for SCI or SAP Code Inspector. Inspector is equal to or is functional DB. This is the variant which we used, functional DB. Okay, then we have our ATC, ABAP Test Cockpit, which is the latest one, and it is very easy if we compare with SCI ABAP Test Cockpit. It is used for inspecting ABAP codes, used for inspecting ABAP codes. We can directly use this tool. In Eclipse to execute our code or to test our code. We can directly execute that. Okay, we can directly execute. For example, let's say I have a program. Let me just show you. I will go to my ABAP layer, ABAP project, and in the project, yes, I have one program here, this one. Now in this program, what I have done, I am using here binary search, but my table is not sorted. I am also performing delete adjacent. So let's check that using ATC, ABAP Test Cockpit. So I will right click, I will go for run as, and here I have ABAP Test Cockpit with, select, pass the functional DB name here, same to same variant, functional underscore DB. Okay, and click on OK button. This is going to perform some checking with ATC. Let's check that. See here, two errors we can see, right? Two errors we can see easily. Yeah, it's more fine now. Error is at this line and this line. So this is how our ABAP Test Cockpit actually works. If you want, we can now resolve this problem. We can easily resolve this problem. So I am going to simply resolve it. Order by primary key. I will also write the same thing here, order by primary key. Okay, let's check that again. I will activate and I'm going to check it. So run as ABAP Test Cockpit with okay functional DB. See, no error now, right? No error, we are not getting any error. So this is how our actually ABAP Test Cockpit works. Now if we compare between SCI, SAP Code Inspector and ABAP Test Cockpit, what is the difference? So this is the old tool. It is an old tool which allows us to create inspections and add them inside inspections and add them inside the execution set. It is an old tool. We can find all the findings and see the priority also. So we can find all the findings and see the priority because of it. Then if we talk about ABAP Test Cockpit, this is the more powerful tool. ABAP Test Cockpit is more powerful tool as it allows integration with transport systems, integration with SAT, which is Object Navigator, then able to see the results and run checks directly in ADT tool as well. Okay, we can also schedule runs overnight. We can also schedule it. There is a default store. So default store for logs is 21 days in ATC. In ABAP Test Cockpit, the default store is 21 days. So we have two tools available, SAP Code Inspector, which is the old tool, not preferred that much, but we have the variant functional DB, same to same variant I used in ABAP Test Cockpit to show you it. We can directly use this tool in case of our Eclipse or HANA Studio. It is more powerful tool as it allows integration with transport system, integration with Object Navigator also. We are able to see the results and run checks directly in ADT as well, right? Also we can schedule runs overnight, and there is a default store for 21 days. Perfect. So this is what going to happen. We are a ABAP on HANA consultant. There is a separate team for migration whose job is to do the migration part. As a ABAP developer, we know how to test all these things, so we are going to use ABAP Test Cockpit for that. Okay, perfect. Then let's check the versions upgradation. So as for HANA system, if we talk about as for HANA system, how changes actually happened here. As for HANA system, so if there are 4 generations of S4HANA. First was SAP R1, right? It was launched in 1972. SAP R1 1972, first product. Five former IBM employees started the company in 1972. So 5 former IBM employees started the company in 1972. Okay, then another one, SAP R2. So with globalization, SAP introduced introduced the next version with two-tier real-time architecture. Real-time architecture in 1979. Okay. Then we have third version, which is SAP R3. So, which was released in 1991. So, in 1991, with boom of internet, SAP came with three-tier architecture, right? With three-tier architecture, and they decoupled presentation layer, application layer, and database layer. Presentation layer, application layer, and database layer. Okay. Then our current one, which is S4HANA, SAP S4HANA, also known as simplified fourth generation HANA. So in 2015, SAP came with new innovation, in memory database and they named it a simplified fourth generation. This is what they named it, right? They simplified the data model in this generation. They simplified the data model in this generation. Simplify the data model, that is, we don't need pool table and cluster table. Okay, we don't need pool table and cluster table here. We don't need secondary indexes here. Okay. Also, because of data aging, new feature it was added. Because of data aging, only active data is present in RAM. That is why the load of RAM is also less in case of HANA-DB. So only active data is there. Whatever data which is not being used from years, it will be simply sent back to the hard disk. Only active data will be there and stored in the RAM, so that we can increase the efficiency of our system. So 4 versions are there: 1972, 1979, 1999, and then 2015, which is the current version we are working on. Then we saw ABAP Test Cockpit, we saw migration and conversions also. What is greenfield implementation and brownfield implementation. So thank you very much for watching the video. We will continue from the next part.